Hello everyone, welcome back to the Blokes podcast. Ryan, Hassan and Nico here talking today about the 5 steps to change. Before we talk about that, Nico, for those not watching on YouTube, for those just listening, I've got a little bit more dressed up for you today.
You've pulled out the finery. You've showered, it looks like, and
I've always showered. maybe there was one time that I hadn't showered. Because this is a lot earlier over here, you know.
Yeah, it looks like you're wearing a hard yakka shirt from the 1990s.
You reckon?
My dad used to wear that colour green as a hard yakka shirt. There was either green or there was the tan colour with the hard yakka colours.
Yeah, I definitely remember the tan colour and the ads. Hard yakka, hard yakka, and it would just be like trucks driving up quarries, like big hills and stuff.
Yep, sweat and
dirt.
Everything. For our international listeners, which we do have, so hello, shout out to all the international listeners. Sure. Hard yakka's a clothing brand. It's a workwear clothing brand, so it's built for tradesmen to wear to work, and it's tough and rugged. And
durable.
It's a bit like Carhartt in America, I'd say, is probably the equivalent.
Okay, never heard of that one.
Yes. But yeah, you're looking spiffy, so thanks for dressing up. And I've actually dressed down today. So
yeah, well look, it's a role reversal, because look, I was just getting a little bit sick of the you just saying, oh, you got your Everlast singlet on again. So I'm like, fuck the Everlast singlet. We're going for the. It's not really it does look like a hard jacket top, but it's just a nice button-up collared shirt.
And the guns are on display. It's very firm around the biceps there.
Well, that's just most shirts are for me.
Yeah, it's nice to see Des and Troy on display today.
Yeah, and I do have my license for these guns with me, so they are registered.
I started Googling when I first saw it, and I was looking up registered plumbers in Koh Samui because those pipes are about to burst.
Oh no.
Yep.
Yep, you did it. Yep, you said it. You thought it. You thought there was a thought, and then there was a space, and then there was, am I going to say this or not? And you did.
Yep.
I get that all the time. I say that stuff with Mel, like the real bad dad jokes, and it's like I say it in my head, and normally I'm just saying it no matter what, but then sometimes I'm like, that one's so stupid, just don't say it, and then you can't stop yourself.
Out it comes. I was just talking to a couple of the girls in the staff room, and I said, one of them said a weird colloquialism or something, and I said, my memories of my father, all of them are just stupid sayings. Oh, that's right. Because it's cold down here in Melbourne at the moment, so the heater's on in the staff room, and they kept leaving the door open. And I said, what, were you born in a tent?
Yeah, classic.
And as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, that's Dad. And then all these other ones started coming. I was like, call me anything you want, just don't call me late for dinner. And just all these. And I don't have children. So my poor girlfriend hears me constantly firing off these dad jokes. And she's just going, but you're not a dad.
It's just this programming. It's just we heard it, and it's just in there, and it just comes out. And you're right. It's not your voice, and it's probably not even your dad's voice, because your dad probably got it passed down as well. That's what I think. One of our sayings we did ages ago on the show was my dad used to say it's when it was real cold. It's cold as 40 bastards. And now I find myself, so not now I'm in Thailand, but when I was at home, I'm like, yeah, it's cold as 40 bastards. And I'm like, why am I saying that? It makes no sense. It's just because Dad said it. But I can't stop myself saying it.
Ours was cold as a witch's tit.
A witch's tit, yeah. Well, today our one is, look, Nick, would you say...
Well, I was going to say, you are looking the bee's knees. You are looking the bee's knees.
I'm looking the bee's knees.
You are looking the bee's knees. And... it takes my mind back to pre-Jesus. We're going back 3,000 years, I think.
It's even pre-Buddha, pre-Lao Tzu.
This is the furthest we've gone back. This could be Adam and Eve. This could be the birth of the planet Earth or something. Anyway,
it's longer than 3,000 years, though.
Yeah. There's this bee hovering in a flower. I heard bees sleep together in flowers and hold each other's feet. I've
Oh,
seen
that's so cute.
that. Isn't that
I
cute?
often wonder, like, it's just the one, the otter one as well. You see the meme, like,
Yeah.
otters holding hands, and then, I wonder how true that stuff is. Like,
You
I
think
wonder if
someone
it's
just
so,
shot them and killed them, and then just made them pose and took a
yeah,
photo?
or they took the photo and then one just killed the other one or something, like a praying mantis eating the male after sex.
I love the photos of the sharks, and people have photoshopped human mouth smiles onto them. They look so friendly. They look amazing. Anyway, so there's this bee and this dude's walking along. No, it's a woman. So this woman walked along.
It's a woman.
'Cause she was out there just in nature.
Yep.
And she saw this bee, and all of a sudden she looked closer, and she saw where the bee's kneecaps should have been or may have been, and she was like, that's a beautiful part of the body. That's the rest of it's nice, but the sun is just shining. It's glistening off the pollen that's landed on the bee's knee there, and that's the bee's knees.
Does a bee have a knee?
Oh no, that's why I said where a kneecap would have
Have been. Yeah. So that's right. So that's where.
So it's a child. It's a child, I think. It's not an adult. It's a child who first came up with the sentence, "That's the bee's knees." Because she was like, the pollen was glistening.
Oh, this is all making sense now. So
the pollen
then
was glistening off the leg,
and
she's like just an association, because she's just a child. She's playful. She's just experiencing it. She's like, oh, well, that's where my knee would be, so maybe that's where the bee has a knee, and it looks amazing. And then she went home, and she had a cupcake that Mum had made for her that day, because it was her birthday, and she bit it, and she saw it was glistening as well, and it triggered a memory of the bee earlier in the day, and she just went, Mum, that cupcake, that's the bee's knees.
wow. Okay. So it's a cupcake. All right. Here's where I'm going with it. And I reckon you're right. I reckon this young girl's seen this bee, and then she came home and she told Mummy and Daddy, and she said, the bee's knee, blah, blah, blah. And then they had to say to her, look, what would her name be? I'm not very good with like olden style names.
Yeah,
Annabelle.
really. Annabelle. Beautiful name.
It's a lovely name, isn't it?
It is.
Listen, Annabelle, I know it looked like it, and that us humans, we have knees, but bees don't actually have knees, right? Now, Mum was making the cupcake, but the father, he's a merchant. So he sells shit. He's got a store in the local town. And so he walks in.
Honey? Does he sell honey from the bees?
He sells everything. Like, pottery. He doesn't. He doesn't sell honey. No.
Oh, but I thought the mum would make the pottery, and they had a beehive or a bee colony, and that's where the little Annabelle saw the bee, and the dad collects the honey, puts it in the mum's pottery, and then sells it in the shed. Anyway, sorry.
No. So he can sell honey. All right, we can sell honey.
Yes.
And so he's just thinking about that, and because when we use the bee's knees now, it's something that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like that's the fucking bee's knees, like something really good. So he's thinking about this. It's in the back of his mind, and then he kind of forgets about it, but still humming away in the background. And then he has a customer come into the shop, and the customer's looking at, it could be a piece of pottery, or maybe some sort of
a sweet or something, a boiled sweet,
or maybe like a relic. Some sort of thing that, that has magical powers, apparently, that you can cast spells with. Whatever, it's some inanimate object anyway. But anyway, because he's a merchant, he's trying to sell this thing. Like he's hustling, And so
I'm seeing where this is going.
He's trying to let them know how rare this item they're looking at is, they're looking, and he goes, "Mate, this thing's like the bee's knees. That's how that's how rare it is." And then the person just starts thinking and goes, "Fuck, this must be like so rare for him to say that. 'Cause that's such a weird thing to say." And so they buy it for quite an inflated price than what it should have been.
Because they're like, the bees have knees. This man is so wise. How did he know this? But only some bees must have knees, because I've never seen a bee with knees. So
but that's how rare. No, but none of them do. So that's why it's so rare.
No, but they're thinking in their minds, and in their buying mind. My God! So he's created FOMO. Basically, that's probably the first ever case of FOMO.
FOMO. Yeah,
Fear
that's
of
that.
missing out.
They're linked. The bee's knees and FOMO are definitely linked.
But this begs the question, because you said it's rare, it's amazing, it's awesome, but it also brings to mind another idiom. That's what they call these things, idioms.
As opposed to us being idiots, these are idiots.
There's also it's the duck's guts. They're very similar. It's the duck's guts. It's the bee's knees. They're on par with each other.
It's the duck's guts.
Yeah. So here's what happened.
Can you use that in a sentence?
Yeah. So I went and had a pie from this bakery down the road here, and fuck, it was the duck's guts. It was so nice.
I thought it was the duck's nuts.
Nah, guts. Oh well, it could be both. It could have got lost in translation.
What?
But anyway.
Why is the duck's guts good? That's gross.
Well, why is the bee's knees? This is
no, but the bee's knees is like that's rare. Like there's bees don't have knees. Ducks have guts.
Where does confit come from?
Where does confit?
What is it, confit?
Confit's a way of slow cooking
fat,
with oil. Confit, yeah, you slow cook something in oil. Are you thinking of foie gras?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's if you want to be really disturbed, look at how foie gras is made. That's
Here they force feed.
That's geese. Something. They force feed geese to make their livers gigantic and really fatty.
So I reckon the stall next to the merchant who was selling his pottery and fine wares and relics.
Yes.
Overheard, because they didn't have walls per se, it was just like canvas tents, so you could easily hear through. I reckon he heard this. It's the duck's nuts. It's the bee's knees, sorry. And he was like, oh my god, he sold that for 20 times what it's worth, and he used it with this idiom. He goes, I've got to come up with my own. So he went home and told his wife, and he's like, honey, my god, she's out in the garden ramming walnuts into these geese, and he mistook them for a duck.
Ramming walnuts into the geese?
What
a visual!
She's elbow deep. She's elbow deep in geese.
She's committed.
And he's gone home and he's mistaken these geese for duck, and he's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm making foie gras, their liver, and he doesn't have a very large brain, so he's got his anatomy all mixed up, so he thinks the liver is the guts.
Right.
And so he's mistaken the geese for a duck, and he's mistaken the liver for the guts, and he's gone back to work the next day, and he's got this piece of shit that he's found, and he's like, I'm going to try and sell this for 20 times what it's worth. And his customer's going, he's like, what's this? And he's like, this, my friend, is the duck's guts. It is that amazing.
And the person was so confused that they just bought it through sheer confusion, or maybe sympathy that they're dealing with some mentally impaired person.
The original merchant overheard that, and he's just laughing his head off, going, "Oh, you poor sad creature."
That's the duck's gut. All right, well, I'm glad we solved that. That's fantastic.
We just killed two birds with one stone.
We did. Boom. Boom. Shakalaka. Let's get on to today's topic now, Nick.
Yeah, let's change.
Listeners regular listeners of the podcast have heard you talk about the 5 steps to change before. Like, we've briefly touched on it, as we're going through other topics, and we've sort of just dipped our toe in here and there. So we thought we'd do a whole episode on these 5 steps to change, go through one at a time, and have a bit of a chat and a back and forth about them. And I think that it'd be good for the listeners to, as you're in your car driving, or you're at the gym, or you're watching on YouTube, whatever it is, maybe just think about one area of your life that you do want to change. And as we're going through these 5 steps, think, where am I at with this thing that I want to change? And also, how do I get to that next step and move through these 5 places to a place of change, which is where we want to be if we've got some sort of negative pattern going on.
Well, hopefully we're changing. There's that expression that a man who sees the world at 60 the same as he saw it as 40 has just wasted 20 years of his life. And you see these gnarled old dudes at the bar drinking their pots of beer going, when I was a lad, they're stuck back in their childhood or back in their youth or whatever. So I think it's really important for us to change, and a lot of people have this limiting belief that I don't like change. That's all that is. It's just a limiting belief. What they're really saying is, I don't like getting out of my comfort zone. I don't like experiencing that discomfort. Um, but it's really important to change. You know, the law of nature is that everything's impermanent. So our bodies, you might know this, Hassan, but 99% of our physical atoms change every year or something silly like that. Have you
Yeah,
heard that?
well, it depends. Like we have a certain amount every day that are dying, but every 7 years, every single cell will be different. So it's like we're literally a completely different human from that biology point of
Yeah.
view.
So when someone says I don't like change, they don't realise that they're constantly in change.
Yeah,
at
and
a
this is
molecular level.
Buddhism that you talk about a lot. This is samsara. This is the wheel, the
Yeah.
circle, the cycle of life and death. It's like, and an acorn becomes a massive oak tree, and then eventually that oak tree will die, but it will drop other acorns, and they will sprout, and it's this.
But that acorn may become a tree, which may become a book, which may be turned into a paper aeroplane, which may be,
Yep.
it's just going to have that ongoing. So these 5 steps of change are just 5 steps that I've come up with through 13 years of practice in working with clients. And I think it's always useful to use metaphors when we're trying to describe things. So imagine you're driving down a highway and all of a sudden your tyre bursts, yeah? Or you get a flat tyre. So that's going to be dangerous. That's going to cause harm to you or people around you. It could cause an accident. So we're going to look at that's a metaphor, but what in your life are you doing that's not sustainable, that's not healthy? So for me, it used to be smoking, it used to be drinking, there was a period of gambling. So what are you doing in your life that's not healthy, that's not sustainable, that would require some change? And that's the car tyre bursting. So you drive along, bang. Before you can change that tyre, what's the first thing you need?
Well, you need to be aware that something's gone wrong with the vehicle that you're in. That you can't keep driving.
No, you may not be able to see it because you're in the car and it may be the tyre at the back. So
But something's wrong. You know
something feels wrong. You can hear something's wrong. There's a wobble. So once again, metaphor. You are the car. Yeah, and all of a sudden you start wobbling. You start finding it hard to go in the direction that you want to go in. So there's going to be a sign there that something's not working. It doesn't mean something is wrong per se in that black and white thinking, but it's just there's something's not working. Something's out of whack. Something's out of kilter. So before we can do anything about it, you're right. We need to have that awareness that this is happening. Okay.
Right.
So you drive along, and all of a sudden you start feeling the car moving around a bit. What's the next thing you need?
Just before we jump onto that, so this is interesting because it's like if someone is in their car and their tire blows, it's like straight away like we pull over, we pull over, we're like there's something's wrong here, I need to pull over, right?
Yes.
So this is like there's still this awareness step.
Yep.
But then if we think about I assume that in this metaphor, this blown tire is the area of our life that we're wanting to change.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. So I would say.
So someone's pulled over. I like where you've gone with this, but then they've stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And as humans, we don't like being stuck. We don't like being exposed. Yeah. We like to keep moving forward. So all of a sudden, we're on the side of the road. We look around and start seeing all these other cars passing us by, and that's going to get us frustrated. Or we may have to be somewhere. We're attached to this desired outcome. I have to get to work, but all of a sudden, I can't get to work because I'm stuck. I'm on the side of the road. So
yes.
Once again, in life, that's that metaphor.
It is. But then, if it's, let's say I'm smoking cigarettes, or I'm drinking 5 beers a night, or I keep having a fight in my relationship, or I'm attracting the same person who's treating me poorly in relationships, or whatever it is,
let's use alcohol because that's a pretty common one.
Pretty common.
You're drinking a few nights, you're having a couple of glasses of wine each night, and you're waking up and you're a bit tired, you're a bit lethargic. The alcohol's going to be affecting your sleep.
Yep.
It's going to be affecting your decision making. You're going to be more irritable. It's going to have a negative ripple effect.
And you're going to have less of an opinion of yourself if you keep doing it over time.
Yeah, you're going to know that I shouldn't be drinking, but you're going to justify it, or you're going to just get stuck in this pattern or habit of drinking.
Which means that you just keep driving with the tyre flat.
With the tyre flat.
And you just you turn the radio up as loud as it'll go, so you can't hear the banging and the clanking of the flat tyre.
But then you're also complaining and wondering why you can't go as fast as everyone else. The stupid car, you start blaming the car. What a crap car! It's the dumbest car in the world. Why did I buy this car?
Okay, so we're aware.
So you finally succumb. You finally succumb to it, and you're pulled over because you're aware. Mm-hmm. And you jump out and you look and you go, fuck, I've got a flat tyre. Now you've got two choices here. You can go into denial and say, well, it's not my job to fix it. Mm-hmm. Or what else can you do?
A lot of people, if you say, like, I'm drinking a bottle of wine a night, it started off as one glass at the end of the day and now it's a bottle of wine a night, then we can just say, who gives a fuck? I'm not hurting anyone. Or we can say, well, I know my friend Jenny and she's drinking like 2 bottles of wine a night, so I'm not that bad.
This is a justification that we go into.
Yeah.
I've got this under control. I could stop any time I wanted to.
I just don't want to.
Well, it was when I was smoking, someone would say, why don't you stop? And I'd be like, I'm not a quitter. If I start something, I finish it.
Once again, I wonder whose voice that was.
Hello, Dad.
Yep.
Thank you, Father. All right, so we've got awareness that there's a problem. Okay, so on some level, whether it's conscious or unconscious, we've got this creeping feeling that there's a problem, but we can't do anything about it until we have what? Acceptance. Exactly. So it's not a problem until someone says it's a problem. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and this goes for not just with ourselves, but we can see other people doing things that are harmful to themselves or others, yeah? And we can get caught up in this, you should change, you should do this differently. We can start imposing our expectations and our beliefs onto people. But the reality is that person, may be doing something destructive or harmful, but if they're in ignorance, there's a lack of awareness, and they're not in acceptance, then it's not a problem for them, and they will not change. It's like leading a horse to water and trying to make it drink. It's just trying to push its head into the water. No, it's just going to kick and buck, and you're going to get hurt in the process. Yes. So we're aware the tire's flat. We're aware we're drinking a bottle of wine a night, but then we have to accept. It's like, okay, look, I accept that this is a problem. Yeah. So go back to our podcast with Deb, right? Mm-hmm. She was an alcoholic, and you asked a great question. You said, what was the moment where you went to AA? And she said, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was such a really wonderful way of expressing it. And it brought to mind that we only change when the discomfort of staying where we are becomes greater than the discomfort involved in moving or changing or doing things differently or getting out of our comfort zone. So this is why human nature is most people won't change their diet until they're diagnosed with diabetes or have a heart attack, or they won't go to a mental health practitioner until they've had a mental breakdown or something. I was about to bring up the heart attack one, because heart disease is the biggest killer of people, and the first sign, normally the first symptom of serious heart disease is a heart attack. And some people, not all, but then after a heart attack, some people, it's that much of a shake-up that they will change their lifestyle, the way they eat, the way they treat themselves. Some don't, but then also, I think it's around 50% of people who have a heart attack will die. Yeah. So it's like your first symptom's death. So it's like your wake-up call is not going to happen. So that's with physical health. Mental health, I had the same thing. I had no awareness that I had mental health. case. So I wasn't in a position to look after it, so it was declining and declining and declining. It developed into mental illness with agoraphobia and severe depression and anxiety. And my version of a heart attack would have been suicide. Now, I was lucky that I didn't have a heart attack or commit suicide because I came into an awareness just in time and then came into an acceptance that I needed to do something about it. So I couldn't alter my mind. I couldn't get out of my suffering. I couldn't improve my mental health and well-being until I had those first two steps in place. And I can't, and you can't, we can't help anyone until they've ticked those first two things off.
That's right, because otherwise you're speaking. Imagine my headphones on now and I can't hear because I don't want to hear.
So many women sort of throw their husbands in to see a therapist. Go and get a therapist under an ultimatum, or we're getting a divorce. So this poor therapist and this poor husband are sitting there looking at each other, and the therapist is like, "So, what can I help you with today?" He's like, "Oh, the fucking wife made me come," and blah blah blah. That dude doesn't want to change. You know, he may understand on some level that he should change, but he's not experiencing enough discomfort or pain. He hasn't gone through a divorce that's cost him $500,000. He hasn't experienced enough pain to then change. So he's not in acceptance yet.
Yeah, So he's not going to change. Yeah, we found that with the centre, because we would have people come in obviously for the free consult, and there was maybe one or two early on, because like when you're starting, like we couldn't barely pay the rent, and so you just like, people who say they want to do it, you just say, yeah, let's do it. And it only took one or two to catch on. So then when some people would come in, and you could tell it's like they're there for their wife, or they're there for their parents or whatever, and
or a court order or something.
Exactly. So then it's just like, no, it's not in either of our interests to go through this process.
Come back to drinking a bottle of wine a night, and so someone's not going to change. So Susie is drinking a bottle of wine. She's got a couple of kids, and she's working, and she's just a bit stressed, and her way of unwinding is to have a glass of wine. Yeah, and that sort of glass turns into a couple of glasses, and then a couple of months down the track, it's a bottle.
Yep.
So it's a very slippery slope. So she's not going to get off that slippery slope until, she sees herself in a photo where she's put on 10 kilograms, and it's a shock to her system, because slow change is very hard to observe, especially when you're in it. So she may be a size 6 dress, and then she goes down to a size 8 dress and a size 10 dress or something, and that'll happen very incrementally, so it won't really be a shock to her system until she sees herself in a photo and there's a double chin here, or there's something happening there, and then she'll go, oh God, and that'll bang, and then so she's got that awareness and acceptance all in one. True.
And then it can also be friends or something bring it to their attention and just say, hey, we don't hear from you anymore, you've been isolating, or hey, what's going on with the fucking drinking, like
Jeez,
if
paddock, haven't you?
If you're lucky enough to have friends who'll be that honest with you, it does bring that shock, because a lot of people don't want to be aware of these things because they're serving a purpose. Otherwise we wouldn't do them.
When I was in my really bad state, afterwards I realised I was a comfort slob. I was in my comfort zone, and I was so comfortable and content in that comfort zone, and there wasn't much anyone else could do to get me out. It wasn't until I was standing at a door that I couldn't open, and I had this epiphany that it was so highly and deeply irrational that I came into that awareness. But a lot of people get stuck in their comfort zones, and it's just the easy path. It's just, all right, well, I'm not going to go and learn how to manage, how to deal with change or conflict or anything. I'm not going to put the time and effort and energy into that. I'm just going to crack a bottle of wine each night.
Yeah. And it just kind of think right now, especially with people who are listening in Melbourne, being in lockdown again, and people around the world who have been in lockdown, these habits have become so much more easier. I was working with a client recently, and the reason she reached out was for meth use, but she was also drinking a bottle or two of wine and just watching Netflix every night until she went to sleep. So it's like, hey, we'll deal with that problem, and now we've still got this habit over here that we need to, because like you said, that just becomes the easy option. And she didn't bring that up straight away because there's some things we don't want to be aware of because we don't want it to change, because part of us is like, we'll justify it, yes, by comparing to other people, but also saying, I deserve it, it's my life, I can do what I want, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff.
We only do things if we get something out of it. So someone who's drinking a bottle of wine and watching Netflix every night, they're getting something out of it. What would they get out of that experience, do you think?
Relaxation. The mind will turn off. I can tune out. All of that stuff. It's like I am smoking. She was a smoker as well. There's quite a few things going on there.
Wow. Multifaceted.
And I always get people. It's interesting. You say if you want to know why you do something, just don't do it and just watch what happens, and then you get some information. I don't know if I've spoken about this in the podcast.
Yeah, we did the last session.
Last one. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, but a lot of people aren't brave enough to do that because they just don't want to look at it. They just want to say, this is my thing that I do, and just I want to keep doing it. So
ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss, but it's not long term. Yeah, it's because it's easy, and you always talk about the easy option, the easy path or the hard path, and it's the easy path to, on the way home from work, grab that bottle of wine very unconsciously, and then just go home and crack it open.
Or it'll be consciously, but it'll be fueled by justifications. I deserve this. I've worked hard today. I've got a lot on my plate. It's okay for me to do this. It's not actually that bad. If it's conscious, it'll be fueled by that justifying.
Yeah, it's that's that crazy voice in their head that we listen to.
Yeah. But what we're doing is, what we're getting out of it is we're getting easing of our pain, easing of our suffering. So it's self-medicating.
Of course it is. 100%. So we become aware of it, we accept it, we say, all right, I accept. Now that doesn't mean
this is not okay, this is not good enough. It's I am at my limit. I can't believe I'm in a size 14 dress.
Yeah, this is not sustainable. It's not me. Yeah. This is a lot of people. That's the moment. Look in the mirror and go, look, this isn't me. This isn't who I want to be. It was like last week, 2 weeks ago, with Ralph, who lost both his legs, and he was on the opiate pills and everything, and he just looked at himself in the mirror and just went, bro, this isn't you. This zombie that's looking back at me, that's not me. And that was the moment where he completely accepted that he was in a position that he didn't want to be in, and that wasn't sustainable, and he wanted to change.
But it comes back to being accountable as well, and so many people are outsourcing their happiness and not being accountable. We talk about, we've all got this garden that we're not tending to. It's getting in that position of being accountable and going, right, this is my life, my body, my happiness. I have to get in the driver's seat. I have to do something about this. So that's where it links into the third one. So we've got the awareness, right? There's something not right. We've got the acceptance. I have to do something about it. But we can't do something about it. When it comes back to the man getting thrown in to see a therapist, because his motivation will not be there. It'll be his motivation. There's two types of motivation. There's productivity-based motivation. So that's I have to. It's under a sense of duty or obligation. It's a chore. Yeah. Or vitality-based motivation. So it's I want to. So, we both of us play golf. So if you have to get up at 5 o'clock, set the alarm at 5 o'clock and go to the golf course, and it's freezing cold and it's a bit of drizzle or something, we're usually up at 4:45. We're up before the alarm because we're so excited and enthusiastic about going to play golf, and it's like, I'll switch the alarm off later and grab a coffee and look at it, it's going to be great out there. Or text down our mates. Or if you have to go to work in a job you don't like at 5 o'clock, you're going to be hitting alarm, snooze. So there's two very different types of motivation fueling your actions and behaviours there.
And so how do we get someone motivated? If they're let's say we can come back to the car with the flat tire and the person with the bottle of wine. how do we get that motivation there? Is that shock that they experience enough of a motivator to get them moving in the right direction?
Not really. They have to care about it. They have to love it. I think it's, you see so many people driving cars that they don't wash, and you look inside and it's just got Macca's papers all over the front and back seats and the floor, and it's just a pigsty. And they don't value that car. They're using that car. Yeah, and there's a big difference. You can tell how someone feels about something by how they treat it, and if they truly value it, they're going to treat it well and with respect and with care and be attentive to it and look after it. And so a lot of people do not love themselves enough to treat themselves well.
Yeah, that's where the motivation. Like I've seen so many people use motivation in the wrong way, and it can still get things done, but it's like, this thinking like, oh, I've got this wedding coming up or this event coming up, and
I'll prove them wrong.
I've got to get down to this. Or they're the high school reunion. I'm going to come and I'm going to look hot as fuck, and I'm going to bring this date and blah blah blah. And it's like the motivation is just a bad energy source. It's you're burning
short term.
You're burning coal, and it's bad for the environment, and it's bad for you because it's like hate, that you're doing it with, which has energy behind it. That's why you can achieve the goal. But once again, it's not this long-term sustainability, because then what happens after this special event that happens, then you just go back to your old ways.
Classic example was Ralph winning the gold medal, and he went into depression afterwards because his motivation to get that gold medal was very external. It was very productivity based. It was very chasing. It was I need this. That wasn't. It came from a wrong energy source.
Yeah, it's like I need to impress other people.
I need to prove that I'm still of value. I don't have legs, but I need to prove that I can still do things.
Yeah, and this is what people do. They want to prove to people in their life now that they're valuable in some way, but they also, I see it so often, that they're still trying to prove to their parents that this is a long topic, but I've met so many clients who their main motivation is either still trying to gain the acceptance of love of their parents, or still trying to tell their parents, fuck you, look what I can do. And these are people that either their parents are dead or they haven't spoken to their parents in 20 years. But their motivation is still that little child trying to get back at the parents or gain the love. Be
proud of me. You will be proud.
You will be. You watch what I can do, And once again, this but if we can come from this place of motivation where hey, I'm drinking a bottle of wine tonight. I'm aware of that and I accept that, and it's something that I don't want to keep doing.
But we don't want to then go into more destructive thinking and then beat ourselves up about it. So we need to break that negative loop and that negative cycle by just coming to an understanding that it's not okay, but we can do something about it. We have to learn how to not go into that beating ourselves up, because then we're not going to love ourselves even more. So it's going to make it even hard. The motivation is going to be harder to achieve in a healthy way. So, I'm drinking a bottle of wine tonight. I've put on a few kilos, and this is where this acceptance has to be unconditional. Has to be an unconditional acceptance. Okay, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. And now is point A. Okay, it doesn't matter why I got here. It doesn't matter why I'm a couple of kilos overweight. Well, all that matters is how I'm going to get myself back onto a path that's genuine and authentic for me. This isn't me at the moment. This is a manufactured byproduct of something else. So what's the root cause? I can't change this until I know what the root cause of it is.
Yeah, but I don't even see those. Even with drugs, because drug addicts are some of the most stigmatized people in society, and I'm like, whether you're on or off drugs, you're not more or less of a person. People think they're this less of a person because they use drugs, and they'll stop using drugs and now they're going to be a better person. I don't see it that way, because all we're doing is creating more guilt and shame.
Yeah, your value's not determined by
Yeah.
if you're taking drugs or not.
Like, I couldn't give a fuck if someone uses drugs or not. But if they come to me and say, oh, I want to stop using them because I want to have a different experience of life, okay, let's work that out and we can do that. But, like, you know, I had a guy last week and he was drinking half a slab of beers a day and for a very long time. And, you know, we spoke and he said, yeah, I've in the last 2 weeks, he goes, I hadn't had a drink for 2 weeks. And then last night I just felt this real anxious, uneasy feeling. So I just had 2 beers and you know, and then stopped. And I'm like, and how do you feel about having those 2 beers? Because we've done work around not beating yourself up on that. And he goes, I feel fine. Like I had 2 beers because I felt anxious. And I'm like bowing. I'm like, here's the thing. I couldn't give a fuck that you had 2 beers last night. But if you were feeling guilty or shameful that you had those 2 beers after not drinking for 2 weeks, then I would be saying we've got an issue here. Because this is where so many people...
It perpetuates the cycle, doesn't it?
Yeah, because then I just want to... If I beat myself up, then I put myself in these negative emotional states. And when I'm in those negative emotional states, what do I want to do? I want to escape. How do I escape? Oh, yeah, I do that behavior that I do all the time. I drink. And then I drink, beat myself up more, drink, beat myself up more, drink. And then we just keep going and going
Hello,
and going.
Stuck in a rut.
It is. It's a shame and guilt cycle that people find themselves in so much. You know,
It's also really interesting when people say, I want to change, but then they don't change. They stay in their cycles. And I imagine you'd encounter this a lot in your line of work. It's, all right, I've got the awareness, I've got the acceptance. Yeah, I'm motivated to change. But what's missing? What's the next step? What do they need?
Tools and resources.
Yeah.
So mate, before we get into tools and resources, like I deal with drug addicts, I was a drug addict myself. The amount of times, like myself, I said, that's it.
That's it.
I'm never touching drugs again.
How many people have woken up with a hangover and gone, I'm never drinking again? Honestly.
Yeah.
You're at a dinner and it's a beautiful meal. I did the other night. We had nachos. I hadn't had nachos in ages. My girlfriend made them. They were delicious. And I'm like, nah, that's it. I'm done. Push my plate away. 40 seconds later, I found myself leaning over. And all right, last one. Just the last. That happened 4 times.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. And you can, and the thing is, we mean it. Like in that moment, it's not like, and this is like drug addicts cop a lot of flack because they're so not dishonest, you know, because they say they want to stop but they don't because they go back to it.
They believe it in the moment.
Like I had deleted dealers' numbers from my phone. I had bloody just, you know, told everyone, I'm like, you know, I'm done. And then, you know, couple of days later, you know, you're back on it again, and then and then you beat the crap out of yourself mentally, and then you just want to numb.
Yeah, it's the same as you delete a girl's number, but then you'll find an old message or something somehow, and then I'm never messaging her again. All of a sudden, you get drunk and you wake up and you're like, oh fuck, oh I'm an idiot, oh I can't believe, oh no, I just want the world to swallow you, the guilt, the shame, and nah, that's it, I'm an idiot. You can hear the destructive thinking and just the cognitive distortions and the emotional disturbances that are in play, and it's just compounding and compounding and compounding. So we may mean well in the moment, but we do need these tools and resources. We do need to create the freedom and you know to start affecting this change.
And what kind of tools and resources are we talking about here? They're different for everyone?
No, not really. Mindfulness, really. It's just learning to be more mindful. So it's just being, instead of in that autopilot, it's being in that moment when something is occurring. So you find yourself walking into a bottle shop on autopilot. Yeah, it's just you're stuck in that pattern, that habit, and all of a sudden, ding, I'm walking into the bottle shop. And in that space between that stimulus, that awareness, and I'm walking into it, you get to make a choice. And it's going to take the hard path to turn around and walk back to your car. But it's, every time you do that, you are strengthening your resolve. You are strengthening your discipline. And every time you just go, oh, well, I'm here now, may as well keep going. You're taking the easy path, and you're not doing that mental rep. So, essentially what we're trying to do is strengthen our mind. If you go back to the car metaphor, you've pulled over, you're aware, you've accepted it, you're motivated because you want to get back on the road. But if you go and open the boot and you've got no jack and you've got no tools to jack the car up and to get the tyre off, then you're going to stay there. So this is the thing. A lot of people set themselves up to fail. They have a desire, they have a motivation. It's important for me to change. But they don't have the crowbar that's going to shift them out of that rut. They can't get them out of there. So they're just going to continue, unfortunately, in their cycle and in their pattern, beating themselves up again for being an idiot, for not being able to do it. I'm so stupid. And so, we need to start giving them these tools and resources. And usually it's pretty simple. Usually it's just reflecting gently. All right, so you're here. Next time you catch yourself, there's an opportunity for you to do a mental rep. Yeah, there's an opportunity in between now and your next session to catch yourself and to laugh at yourself of how irrational you're being, and then rewind, pull yourself back to your car, and then change and take off. And then there's an opportunity the next day for you to take a different way home from work. Don't drive past the supermarket, drive along the beach or drive somewhere else. So it's really not only rerouting your way home, it's rerouting your neurological pathways again. Yeah,
I love that. For me, the way that my journey and the way that I teach is doing the tools and resources would be doing the underlying sort of trauma or root cause work. Because it's like, if I have to have a bottle of wine at night to relax, then there's an issue there that, like, why can't I relax without it? Yeah.
Well, for me, that's because people aren't self-managing throughout the day, and they're allowing people and events they're reacting to people and events, so they're getting wound up throughout the day. So therefore they need something to unwind at the end of the day. So for me, it's teaching them how to self-manage and not let their emotions get so heightened throughout the day.
Right. So for me, this is where we differ a little bit. I would try and find out where the belief became that it's not safe for me to relax, or I need to be doing all the time, or whoever's triggering me at work, why are they triggering me? Why is my boss remind me of my dad who used to yell at me? That kind of stuff, right? And then also we've spoken about, it might have been a couple of episodes about the stream of thoughts and getting out of the river, and just realizing that we're not our thoughts, and realizing that voice in the head that says, hey, pull over, the bottle shop's just up here, go and grab that wine, is the exact same voice that after you crack the bottle of wine is going to say, hey, you piece of shit, you're doing this again.
Imagine if that voice was your mate sitting in the passenger seat next to you. Hey, mate, just swing past the bottle and grab some wine. Yeah, no worries, mate. You get home, drink the bottle of wine, and you're sitting there, you're a fuckhead for getting that wine. What do you mean? You asked for it.
You told me to get it. You told me to get it.
Come on. You smell Jerry Seinfeld high voice. What are you talking about?
No, that happened to me once again. Not sure if I spoke about this, but yeah, I'd been watching my thoughts and watching them, and then this one time it was finished work on the way home. It was a Saturday or whatever. Footy game was on, and it was like the mind just said, "Let's just grab a 4-pack of beers and just sit down, mate. You deserve it. You deserve to relax and just watch the footy." And I was going through a period where I just wasn't having beers for a bit, just because that's what I decided at some point. So I was like, no, I'm not. And I got home, and the voice kept going. It kept going at me. And then it gave me like literally a PhD thesis on all of the reasons throughout my whole life. It showed me all the good things you've done and why you deserve to, and how it's not going to have any negative flow-on effects. And it was like, there's such a good argument. Like, it should be a lawyer. And then anyway, I finally succumbed to it, and I'm like, all right, it's 20 minutes till the game starts. Fucking drive down. I'll get a 4-pack of this craft beer and sit down. And this exact thing happened. I cracked the beer and opened it, and it goes, "You piece of shit! I can't believe you're having a beer." And I just went. I was like, "That's it. I can't fucking listen to this thing anymore. This is insane. Like, it's just you cannot win. There's too many competing parts in there with different advice that it gives you."
So you had to do something differently. Going, yeah, that's hilarious. I think we've all experienced that. I reckon listeners are sitting there nodding, going, "Yep, been there, got the T-shirt. Yep,
Yeah.
you've done it, Hass. I've done it. We've all fucking done it. We're all human. That's the thing. And so there's nothing wrong with us when we do it. It's just, in Myndfit, we remove judgment completely because we don't want to create shame or guilt or anything. So we do that by saying, is it healthy and is it sustainable?
Yep.
That's all we bounce everything off. Is it healthy and is it sustainable? If the answer is no and no, then that means, okay, we need to start exploring how to change it, how to do things differently.
Yep.
But, I talk about mental reps and strengthening and conditioning the mind. Imagine how good it would feel if you caught yourself walking into a bottle shop, had the awareness, really gently took yourself back to the car without shame or guilt or beating yourself up or going into agitation, and then jumped in the car and got home. Imagine how good you'd feel an hour, 2 hours later. Imagine how good you'd sleep that night because you don't have alcohol in your system. Your body's not trying to process.
So you get positive reinforcement.
It's just this ripple effect that goes not only through the night but through the next day and onwards. So
yeah, and it's really important what you said there. Is it healthy and sustainable? Because people get this idea in their head, and I'm sure you've had it as well. It's like they're coming to see a therapist, and it might be for a drinking problem or whatever it is, and so their whole thing is, oh, you never have a drink, and you're going to tell me never to have a drink again, and everything's unhealthy, and I have to eat organic vegetables, and that's it from now on. And like, it's this whole kind of thing. It's like, for someone listening now, you might have a glass of red wine a night with dinner, and it's not unhealthy and it's not unsustainable, and that's okay. And everyone's different because that
don't go into the binary thinking where it's right or wrong or good or bad though.
Exactly.
Keep it neutral.
Yeah, because that's why people are like, oh, I just have to now not have any fun in my life and all that kind of jazz. That's not true. Both Nick and I, we love a beer. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just your relationship to what's going on. And if you're drinking a bottle of wine a night because it calms you down, then we've just got not a good relationship.
But if I'm aware that I've got a gallbladder issue, I can't perform an operation to remove my own gallbladder. I have to go and see somebody. But I'm not going to go, oh, geez, I'm such an idiot for having a crook gallbladder.
Can't YouTube it and just sort of do it yourself?
I can Dr. Google it. But I'm not going to sit there and beat myself up and call myself a fuckhead for having a gallbladder issue. I'm just going to acknowledge it, accept it, and I'm going to get motivated because I'm in pain, and then I'm going to find somebody with the tools and resources that can help me, and I'm going to get out of that pain. But you and I, we're not therapists. We're just agents of change. That's all we are. We're just facilitating change. We're just guides. We're guiding people from point A that's not working for them to point B. It's more healthy and sustainable. You're still human. You're still going to have your flaws. You're still going to have your good and bad days, blah, blah. But all we're doing is guiding people from here to there because we can't do it ourselves. You and I couldn't get back on track without the help of other people.
Exactly. And that's where tools and resources for me come in. It's like we need people to be able to self-manage. And I think, where we differ a bit is yours is very cognitive. So what cognitive decisions am I making? What new neural pathworks am I
That comes from belief. So we do most of our work is around the belief system.
Yes, yeah. And then for me, with that as well, including is like how can I be comfortable with the sensations in my body? Because there's always going to be a sensation in the body that comes along with that. Yeah. There's like this compulsion, this urge that wants us to go and do something that we know isn't right for us. Or if throughout the day, the boss, sends an email at me and that kind of thing. It's like, can I actually start to manage and deal with the sensations in my body instead of creating a whole story around it, which means then I can let these sensations go. Because otherwise we just this is where people are so, in trouble. They're just so uncomfortable with being in their own body that we look for these coping mechanisms.
But for me, it's all about developing someone's emotional intelligence, their capacity to self-manage and self-regulate through that self-awareness, and to realize how we're impacting on other people. And if we don't have that emotional intelligence in play, we're going to be very immature. We're going to be emotionally immature. So my whole thing is just to help build some emotional maturity, really. And think of it, if boss sends you an email, you can, if you press mute and just watch someone, you would see them revert back to a 5-year-old and going to have this adult tantrum, and it's not fair. I can't believe he said that. Rah, rah, rah. He's going to go into all these really irrational distortions, and he's going to go home and crack a bottle of wine, and
it takes ownership. It takes emotional ownership, because every emotional reaction we have is ours. This is where people get stuck. So it's like, you get the email, and so we automatically go, the boss shouldn't have said this. He made me angry and sad, and he shouldn't have said it. He should have worded it different. He should have said it at a different time. Then we go home and we ruminate. Whereas, someone else could get the exact same email and have no emotional reaction at all. So
because
it's like,
they're not attached to a belief that I must be loved and liked, and so
exactly.
they're not get triggered.
So then, by owning all of our emotions, then we can start to let go ourselves, and that way we don't need a therapist. That's why my thing with the emotional stuff is like, imagine if we have the invisible backpack on, and then every time we don't deal with something emotionally, we chuck a potato in there, and then throughout our life, because we're not taught how to deal with emotions, we all have a very, very heavy sack, and so and that heavy sack manifests as symptoms: depression, anxiety, alcohol problems, addiction issues, workaholism. And so it's like, okay, sometimes we need help pulling the big potatoes out, like the real big ones, like what mummy or daddy did when I was 4, and I can't fucking let go of. But then, ideally, all these other smaller potatoes, we want to help to be able to self-manage and let those go ourselves and not accumulate anymore.
You just said all these things that mum and daddy did that I can't let go of. And in my work, the source of all suffering is attachment. I'm still attached to it. I can't let it go. So that's really the root cause of my work, is helping people to let go of that belief that they need to, or they have to, or they should, or the conditioning around that, whatever.
Yeah.
I've got to head off soon. I've got an appointment to get to. So the last one. So having the tools and resources, it gives us the capacity to change.
And also just the motivation. So just quickly, so the motivation needs to come from, I love myself, not I hate myself.
Vitality based.
Yes.
I want to,
yes.
not I have to.
Yes. And then we've got tools and resources. And now capacity. What does the word capacity mean in this context?
It just means the ability to reach a goal, essentially. So I want to stop drinking a bottle of wine every night. Do I have the capacity to do it? And we need to look at the capacity in other people around us as well. Like, a lot of us want a hug from our mother or father or sister or brother or partner or something. Yeah, when we're down, I want a hug. It's an unconscious, uncommunicated need or desire. But a lot of the time, there's so many people out there who are non-judgmentally, in a very literal sense, emotionally retarded, that they don't have the capacity to hug you in return. So when we're looking at change and looking at things, we really need to evaluate someone's capacity. I do this as a practitioner. I'm sitting here with a client, and I'm evaluating, what is your capacity to get from point A to point B? What roadblocks are in the way? What limiting beliefs are there? What cognitive distortions are you using? Where are your attachments? So the work I do is at the intersection of freedom and knowledge, and so they can sit here and learn all this stuff and intellectualize it, but if they're not emotionally free, then they're not going to be able to implement it, and they're not going to be able to create that change. So
yeah, emotionally free. I worked with a client literally last night, and It was so beautiful. Like the first session, we go through a heap, but it's one of the main things. It's like, where are we going here internally? What do we want to be feeling? What do we want to be, letting go of or bringing more of into our life? Like we need to set some goalposts. And I work with so many people who have very, very high, like me and you, like high sensitivity emotionally, and they need to start to deal with that stuff. And this guy, one of his goals was, I want to feel emotions more. Because he's so shut off,
apathetic.
The walls are up so much that he's sort of referred to by other people as emotionless. But he has this inner knowing that there's so much in there that he wants to give, and there's a lot of heaviness that needs to come out. But there's also a lot of love that he wants to give. But it's just these walls that we build to protect ourselves.
I want to give him a hug.
Yeah, so do we. He'll be up for hugs in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
Just give me a couple of weeks.
All right.
And that
finish up.
You got to run. So just that capacity is, hey, I can make that change. But if someone's capacity before these 5 steps isn't there, because you say, "Oh, can you stop drinking that bottle of wine at night?" They'll be like, "No, don't want to. Piss off."
Can you change the tyre? Right, well, I'm aware that I have to change the tyre. I've accepted that it needs change. I've got the tools. I've got the motivation. I want to get back on the road. I've got the tools. I've got a jack and a tyre iron. Oh, fuck, I don't have arms. Oh, dear. Right, I don't have arms. I can't change that tyre. Might go and need some help, or I'm going to need to find a different way around it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. Beautiful.
Know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
All right, cool.
Awesome, mate. All right, you got to run. That episode was the bee's knees.
And we also killed 2 birds in one stone.
We did.
All right, love you all lots. Thanks for listening. Peace to you, Huss.
Peace to you too, my friend. And I'll see you in the everlasting next week.
Love it.
All right, mate. See ya.
Bye.